let's dive into the World Economic Forum. You are seeing a growing trend, my friends. People are questioning now, even saying enough is enough of these global economic elites at the World Economic Forum running our lives. They're having their annual meeting in Davos this week, and many people have questioned the legitimacy of the unelected group of elites, including Elon Musk. He slammed the WEF publicly, which is something billionaires are not allowed to do. And he sent a series of tweets out over the past few hours, slamming them. You're not allowed to do this if you're a billionaire. He said the World Economic Forum is increasingly becoming an unelected world government that people never asked for and don't want.
Now, that's a very good summary of what we've kind of been presenting here for a long time. For the last couple of years, we've been covering the panels and covering the agenda at the World Economic Forum. I do think that we're starting to see this slow shift because I'm from the Silicon Valley. And so, I left in 2008 when Davos was a really sexy and important place to go. I remember the annual trips to Davos, the kind of people who would brag about it at CES, that kind of thing. And now it's unsavory. It signals that you are part of an agenda to make decisions for people without being an elected representative.
Right.
So I think this is a really concise way to put it. It's a
perfect one sentence, isn't it, David?
And make no mistake, it's already had effect on our lives because they, in 2019, promoted Event 201, which then became that drill for the pandemic. And then, lo and behold, we had a pandemic. So to say that it hasn't already affected our lives in a big way, I think is,
Yeah, and on multiple levels, not even just the pandemic. I mean, there's so many different levels that this is. I mean, look at the farmers in New Zealand and the Netherlands, and of course, that's a huge piece of this, right? That all came out of this. So this came in response, of course, that tweet from Elon Musk. This came in response to a panel that was held yesterday, where Klaus Schwab was speaking. Of course, he's the founder of the World Economic Forum, and the panel was about how we need to start using the metaverse to interact with companies. The World Economic Forum has created a new virtual village where you can come and participate in the World Economic Forum in the metaverse. Does that sound like so much fun? Like I'm playing, if I want to play Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, that's fun.
Yeah, I thought about this a lot on Monday when I saw this panel. If you watched the piece we did where we just went over what I thought were the more concerning ones. And I thought to myself, why a whole panel on the metaverse? What do they get out of this? Well, this really plays into transhumanism, right? The rejection of human biology for profit. This says to me, you know what I see is I see this, like in WALL-E, where we all become so sedentary that we need machines to like zoom us around.
Right. Like on those like gurneys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is sort of this. I mean, again, I'm being super cynical here, but why? Why otherwise? Because we're not so good on this planet and they can control us in that one.
Yeah. I mean, in this clip, so we'll play what this clip is. This is the WEF's virtual village. The idea that it could be trusted because the International Criminal Police Organization, Interpol, would be working closely with them inside the metaverse to make sure that everything was safe. Listen to Klaus Schwab explain, don't worry about everything. We're going to be working with the police. We're going to be working with Interpol. So when you come into our virtual village, everything will be safe for you. Watch.
I think the metaverse is a great tool to reinvent the way we work. But in general, my question is, in the moment, we see quite a big decline in trust in political institutions and also in their representatives worldwide. And a meeting here in Davos, at what extent do you think this can strengthen to build this trust again?
I would refer afterwards also to Brad Smith. I think what is essential is to make sure that the system as such, the technology, can be trusted. And one of the village partners, for example, is Interpol. So we work together already with the necessary instances to make sure that the system is as safe as it can be.
Okay,
Okay, so we're going to be working with Interpol to make sure the system is safe as can be. It's like saying we're going to work with the FBI to make sure that whenever you come in and visit our little village, you'll be taken care of.
But just to pose that with the segment we did about brain transparency,
right.
Like you can't even enter there until you are already reprogrammed in thought. And so what's Interpol going to do? Because you've already been uploaded to the thoughts that you are allowed.
Right. Or like the government sending like Havana syndrome into your brain, like because that's because that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right. So, this is unbelievable. Right. So sure, Interpol will be working closely with the World Economic Forum and Facebook's metaverse. Trust them. Please trust them. Just before the event kicked off, Elon Musk sent out this tweet about the World Economic Forum. I guess there's value to having a mixed government and commercial forum of some kind. The WEF does kind of give me the willies, though, but I'm sure it's fine.
Russell Brand calls it the capitalist Coachella.
Capitalist Coachella.
Just having fun out there. But again, I do think now, I think in the next few years, every time we do these segments, I think I'm going to read that book, Davos Man. I haven't yet, but the archetype of this like controlling behind the scenes cabal, I do think will be something that they won't do this in the open. And in 5 years, this will just be so frowned upon that no one's going to show up to Davos.
No, it'll be so secretive, and that's what we're already seeing. I mean, I think we are winning. I think that's the story here, is that we are winning by having people like Elon Musk calling this out, and by having reporters, folks at True North and Rebel News and others doing great work, like going there trying to get answers, even though they're getting kicked out, and they're doing their best, right? Because now we have this awareness, this annual event. We didn't have this much scrutiny last time. It was growing.
No, it was more about like, $40 hamburgers and private jets.
Right.
And now it's like,
how are you going to ruin our lives?
We're tired of these people. They should not be getting together and kibitzing at all. Go ahead, David.
Well, I was going to say, and also kudos should go to Alex Jones, because he's been, since Bilderberg Group, he's been, keeping a light on these cockroaches that we're trying to do it all in secret. And now they're like, well, let's just start doing it in public. And now they're realizing they can't do it in secret or public.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. I mean, absolutely. He's been calling this out. And so good for him, and good for the people at InfoWars who've been calling this out for years as well. And the Bilderbergs as well. I mean, we even had on the Bilderberg side, we had, from the Gray Zone, we had Max Blumenthal, of course, was trying to get answers from the Bilderbergs. He tried to basically break in to get answers from the Bilderbergs in Washington, D.C. And he was like, and they like kicked him out because he's like, man, I wish I would have worn a suit that day. He's like, but they threw me out because I wasn't dressed appropriately trying to get answers from this secretive group of people. He's like,
what I'm going to do? I'm going to be a Davos attendee for Halloween and just like print a badge and dress as like someone with like, will anybody get that?
Need to tell everybody to stop eating their candy. Yeah. You can't eat that candy. That's not healthy for you. Put that down.
I bet you guys all would get that more than you got my Mary Poppins costume this year.
Yes.
Nobody got that on Halloween.
If you spoke in a really like I don't know, this kind of like Davos, this kind of a Swiss or this German accent, no,
not capable.
You could pull that off.
I'm not even going to try.
So. Anyway, this event, the whole event, Klaus Schwab speaking there, so what Elon Musk was basically saying is, I'm sure everything is fine. Of course, the event is called Mastering the Future, Master the Future. So here is Klaus Schwab kicking this off, explaining what this Master the Future is all about. And then we'll look at some of these panels that are absolutely frightening, which we've heard over the past 24 hours. Listen.
We couldn't meet at a more challenging time. We are confronted with so many crises simultaneously. What does it need to master the future? I think to have a platform where all stakeholders of global society are engaged. Governments, business, civil society, the young generation, and I could go on, I think is a first step to meet all the challenges.
So a couple things there, right? We couldn't be meeting at a more difficult time, right? A difficult time right now. He's talking about all of these crises, right? FYI, these crises aren't natural disasters. These crises were created by you.
Yes.
You, the people in that room, the global recession due to the printing of money, the fake climate crisis that's forcing farmers off their land, right? With draconian nitrogen rules. The energy crisis, because you're trying to eliminate hydrocarbons and fossil fuels. You instigated a war with Russia by attacking the Donbass in eastern Ukraine for 8 years. So all of this created by these guys. We couldn't be meeting at a more difficult time. It's all created by you. Yeah. If you guys stop meddling and effing things up, it wouldn't be a difficult time. Here's an idea. Stop screwing things up. So their theme is called Master the Future. And Musk tweeted this in response to this. Master the future. Doesn't sound ominous at all. How is the World Economic Forum in Davos even a thing? Are they trying to be the boss of Earth?
Yes.
Yes, they are. Masters of the universe. So real journalists are being kept away from the panels, of course. Real journalists. They're cordoned off so that corporate media like CNBC, Bloomberg, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, get front row access to sort of promote the World Economic Forum, but not ask any tough questions, really facilitate this event, to kiss their butts. Otherwise, they won't be invited back. They get access, right? So real journalists, independent journalists, have been forced to get interviews out in the freezing cold as these globalists make their way between meetings and panels. Just watch as a Japanese journalist, Masasaku Gana, confronts Klaus Schwab to try to get some answers. And when he asks what media organization they're from, and when she explains that they're independent media, he just turns around and keeps walking. Oh, you're not part of the corporate media? Then I can't talk to you. Watch.
Chairman Schwab, I'm from Japan. May I ask you for... I'm from Japan.
Yeah.
And may I ask you for a comment?
No,
we're on our way to the next thing. We're a bit late.
I can just walk with you and then ask questions.
I think we're gonna rush actually. But thank you.
I'm just gonna walk with you and ask you a few questions. No, we're gonna rush. We're gonna rush away from you.
Thanks very much.
Which media are you with?
I am an independent journalist from Japan.
No, thank you very much.
Yes.
I have to ask.
Thank you.
Not.
Oh, I have time to stop and ask you, what media organization are you from?
But I want to ask just one question.
I only take softball questions. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. And she's like such a sweet,
I can just walk and ask you.
Yeah, we're not.
Thank you. No, sorry, we're in a big rush. We've got so many things tonight.
But for us,
thank you.
It's very precious moment.
I know. He's got so many people stopping that if you were to stop for everything, we win. That's the unfortunate. So I'm very sorry, but thank you.
But
thank you for trying.
Do you know the voice that worry about globalism?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, that's the magic word. Now we close the door.
So there's a lot of people worried about globalism, and yes, sorry, we can't talk to you. We're in such a big hurry. We've got so many important people to go and see. We can't talk to independent media. Like, fuck you.
Clayton.
Screw you. These are seriously, this is like what they tell these people. It really, I don't know. I just want to punch a camera right now. That is so insulting to me. Like, you hear from these PR people, if we stopped and talked to everyone.
It doesn't look like there's a lot of other people out there. It's pretty cold and dark.
Yeah, it's nighttime. Where do you have to go? What's so important that I would love to know where you have to go right now that's so important that you can't talk to
parties.
A Japanese journalist who flew there to
parties
see this.
To go have a raclette.
I was going to say,
in Switzerland.
Yeah, that's probably the CNNs, the MSNBCs. They're probably up there having hot cocoa and just like being wined and dined and treated like royalty. And okay, you get 10 minutes with this person. Here's your list of questions you can ask.
Makes me sick. It really makes me sick. Mm-hmm. Like watching this, and I don't care if she's sweet. I don't care if it was a man asking those questions. But here's an old man. Here's a sweet, Japanese reporter.
Well, she was being respectful. These are the rules of journalism.
Asking, Chairman Schwab, I have just a question. I'm from Japan. I flew from Japan. I'd love to ask you some questions. And he stops to engage her, and then to find out that she's independent, then he can't answer. If it was CNN or if it was CNBC asking a question, he would have stopped and answered the question.
Yeah.
If it was the BBC,
well, I think
no.
I think that very clearly, defines and sort of illustrates what we were talking about the other day with they're not there to they're there to control it. They're basically there to save us. And so our media, they're idiots, and that's how they treat them. Like, well, you're not real media. You don't actually know what journalism is. You don't know what you need. You don't know what you want. We do. So that's why it's like that disdain for anybody below their status.
We're going to talk about the Brian Stelter panel when we talk about narcissism. We're going to get there. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there.
Potato boy. So here's another example of a journalist. So here's another real journalist, Avi Yemeni at Rebel News, confronting Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla. I believe Avi was there along with Ezra Levant as well from Rebel News. Rebel News has been doing some great work there, trying to get answers. They're being kicked out, barricaded, pushed away, cordoned off, but they've been, God bless them. And they're on a shoestring budget. So, you want to support independent journalism, support what these guys are doing. Anyway, so here is Avi Yemeni trying to confront Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla about all of the trouble with their COVID booster shots and the revelations that are coming out. And let's try to get some answers. And they made the mistake of walking down this street when Rebel News was there. Watch.
Mr. Bourla, can I ask you, when did you know that the vaccines didn't stop transmission? How long did you know that without saying it publicly?
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry. Answer that question. I mean, we now know that the vaccines didn't stop transmission, but why did you keep it secret? You said it was 100% effective, then 90%, then 80%, then 70%. But we now know that the vaccines do not stop transmission. Why did you keep that secret?
Have a nice day.
I won't have a nice day until I know the answer. Why did you keep it a secret that your vaccine did not stop transmission?
Is it time to apologise to the world, sir? To give refunds back to the countries that poured all their money into your vaccine that doesn't work, your ineffective vaccine?
Yeah, you have a little bit around.
Are you not ashamed of what you've done in the last couple of years?
Do you have any apologies to the public, sir?
Are you proud of it? You've made millions on the backs of people's entire livelihoods. How does that feel to walk the streets as a millionaire on the backs of the regular person at home in Australia, in England, in Canada?
What do you think about on your yacht, sir? What do you think about on your private jet? Are you worried about product liability? Are you worried about myocarditis?
What about the sudden deaths?
So right now he's thinking, damn.
Why didn't I get an Uber?
How far do we have to walk? Next year, remind me never to leave a building without a car.
No going in the sunlight. You cannot take me outside.
A back alleyway?
Yeah, I know I'm walking in this non-slushiest part of the street, but boy, this is a pain in the ass. And this is not the PR that they wanted. And by the way, just look at all the lackeys running around him, trying to shield him. Like this woman in the red, she's like running up, trying to like guard him. She's like, oh no, I'm going to lose my job today. I was supposed to protect Albert, and I'm trying to get up there.
She's like, if I don't look like I'm freaking out, maybe I won't get fired.
Yeah.
What's funny
is in this situation, this probably is the most dangerous street in there because, like, if it had been, like street thugs or something like that, his security could have shot him and got away with it. But you can't just do that to a reporter. So they're like, man. So they're like I don't even know how to handle this situation, right?
Can you act a little violent and then we can
rough you up? To say about young men dropping dead of heart attacks every day.
Let's go this way.
Why won't you answer these?
Look, she's like pulling him. She's like, let me pull you right here into the street in front of oncoming traffic. Is there a train we can jump in front of?
Basic questions.
He's like, I can cross the street too.
Do you like my Harry Potter?
Apologies, sir.
Do you think you should be charged criminally for some of the criminal behavior you've...
Save me, my little red-headed assistant. Please, my little red-coated assistant. Where's Little Red Riding Hood when you need her?
Obviously been a part of.
How much money have you personally made off the vaccine?
How many boosters do you think it'll take for you to be happy enough with your earnings? Nothing?
Who did you meet with here in secret? Will you disclose who you met with? Who did you pay commissions to?
God.
It's hard to watch. It's uncomfortable.
My God, because he keeps trying to go in different doors. He's like, that door's closed. Is there an alleyway somewhere? Is there a Starbucks I can sneak into and pretend that I'm... Oh my God! So the World Economic...
He's obviously never had to walk anywhere, so because he doesn't understand how streets work.
Right.
Yeah.
He's like, wait, what are these things? Are these called sidewalks? What is this? So the World Economic Forum in Davos has reminded us how we need to stay vigilant and protect our families against these global cabal of tyrants. They had plenty of cringy panels to master the future, which of course is their name of this event. So here are just a few of the stunning highlights. Now, you remember Brian Stelter from CNN. He was CNN's lead purveyor of disinformation and misinformation. He was recently fired from CNN. Well, he's back as part of the World Economic Forum, hosting panels on disinformation. Watch.
The clear and present danger of disinformation is our conversation here this afternoon. It follows a session just now about disrupting distrust, and of course those are connected, so I hope that's where we can start. I'm Brian Stelter, formerly of CNN, now a fellow at Harvard University. A reminder that the hashtag is WEF23. We can try to put some real information out into the world to make up for all the crazy.
Because we are the ones who get to say, you guys, what they say is wrong, but what we say is right. So let's all use our voices. Drown out there.
We are the arbiters of truth.
And he gets in these little digs like he's like, we're clearly the sane ones in this insane world, and all those people out there are so crazy. This panel right here, all of you elites in this room, you guys are the sane ones.
It's like when narcissism and condescension, like have a baby,
converge,
yeah,
right, into a potato like
into
this.
that guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I get it. So if you can afford $10,000 or whatever the tickets are, if you can afford that amount of a ticket or whatever, then your voice matters. If not, then it doesn't.
Oh, I think it's like $45,000, just entrance fee. Because I was reading, I was reading some of the comments of the Daily Mail, because a lot of the readers of the Daily Mail were not happy that Elena Zelenska was there. They said, how can you get on a plane to go there? How can you have the time for this? How can you have the designer clothes? How can you get away during the war? This is like an elite cush event. You know, this it sort of it invalidates your war rhetoric.
She's in Paris buying $40,000 stuff, and then she's here in Davos. Like, who's footing the bill for this?
And they were some pretty funny comments actually on the Daily Mail coverage of her speech there.
Yeah.
And they were asking who paid for this, because it's upwards of $45,000 entry. Wondering if that was comped.
Yeah.
So do other war-torn countries get comped entry? Because I didn't see the First Lady of Ethiopia there, or Yemen, or Syria. I'm just wondering where they were.
So let's get back to Stelter here. So just to be clear, Brian Stelter, one of the biggest purveyors of disinformation in the world, is CNN. Remember CNN?
Mm-hmm.
From their work to push the war in Iraq, to fake gas attacks in Syria that they pushed, Barbara Starr, their star reporter, pushing those fake stories, to the current war in Ukraine. CNN is, of course, on the vanguard of pushing fake news. That's what they do. This fake news is handed to them by the intelligence state and then promoted and parroted on their network every single day. This is how it works. Brian Stelter was their media critic, and he even hosted a show. He was the watchdog that was supposed to keep the media honest, right? Remember, he hosted a show called Reliable Sources, which is just hilarious to me. And when he was confronted about his hypocrisy on disinformation, misinformation, specifically about Russiagate, by a highly educated student, here was his smug response.
Hi, thank you for coming. My name is Christopher Phillips. I'm a first year at the college. My question's for Mr. Stelter. You've all spoken extensively about Fox News being a purveyor of disinformation, but CNN is right up there with them. They pushed the Russian collusion hoax. They pushed the Jussie Smollett hoax. They smeared Justice Kavanaugh as a rapist, and they also smeared Nick Sandmann as a white supremacist. And yes, they dismissed the Hunter Biden laptop affair as pure Russian disinformation. With mainstream corporate journalists becoming little more than apologists and cheerleaders for the regime, is it time to finally declare that the canon of journalistic ethics is dead or no longer operative? All the mistakes of the mainstream media, and CNN in particular, seem to magically all go in one direction. Are we expected to believe that this is all just some sort of random coincidence, or is there something else behind it?
It's too bad. It's time for lunch.
You have 30 seconds.
No, I mean,
Brian.
there's a clock that says 30 seconds. But I think my honest answer to you, and I'll come over and talk in more detail after this, is that I think you're describing a different channel than the one that I watch. But I understand that is a popular right-wing narrative about CNN. I think it's important when we talk about shared reality and democracy, all these networks, all these news outlets have to defend democracy. And when they screw up, admit it. But when Benjamin Hall, the Fox correspondent, was wounded in Ukraine, the news crews at CNN and the New York Times stopped what they were doing, and they tried to help. They tried to help him get out of the country. They tried to find the dead crew members. That's what news outlets do. That's how they actually do work together, to your question about sharing those kinds of connections and trust. We don't talk about it enough, though. We don't share that reality about how that happens. And with regards to the regime, I think you mean the President Biden. The last time I spoke with a Biden aide, we yelled at each other. So that's the reality of the news business that people don't see, that people don't hear. They imagine that it's a situation that it simply is not. But I think your question, it speaks to the failure of journalism to show our work and show the reality of how our profession operates. We have a lot of work to do, I think.
The lack of humility there makes my skin crawl.
Yeah. Oh, is it lunchtime? Because, I need to eat.
There's no self-referencing there. There's no responsibility. There's no, you know what? Clayton and I, we sit here and we talk over the weekends and we talk about, like, are we being responsible with the things that we cover and the way that we're doing it? The inability to do this is so apparent with that answer. We should all, anybody who dares to have a microphone, who dares to broadcast themselves, needs to take responsibility and needs to continue to say, I can be better than. And I reject that wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Does anyone know if he actually did go over after the fact and talk to the kid? Like, was that ever verified?
I think it was. Yeah, I think they did verify it later because I think this kid then ended up becoming a guest on another show and said that they did talk about it, but it made him feel no less, better about it, after that.
Right.
So at the WEF panel, the panelists claimed that the spread of fake news was among the greatest threats currently facing society and praised Europe for its strict internet regulations. Stelter, without challenging him or anybody, heard the head of the New York Times, Arthur Sulzberger, claimed during the panel, this panel specifically, quoting him, he said, if you look at this question of disinformation, I think it maps basically to every other challenge that we're grappling with as a society, and certainly the most existential among them. What it attacks is trust, he said. He continued and then went on to claim that those who invoke terms such as fake news and enemy of the people were following in the footsteps of repressive regimes such as Nazi Germany and Stalinist Russia. That's the head of the New York Times is saying that. Just a reminder, the New York Times created fake news that led us into the Iraq War and cost 1 million lives. So they get up there and get to lecture us about journalism and free speech and what it means to spread fake news. The word fake news is essentially
unattributed and verified reports of attacks in Ethiopia leading to warfare. We've covered that many times.
Right.
Unverified reports of attacks in Ukraine on civilians.
Right.
They run with that all the time. So they can take that and shove it straight up their ass.
Right. So they are the biggest purveyors of fake news. So I guess his words are that they're just as bad as Nazi Germany then when they're spreading this. I mean, that's the New York Times. They're awful. And then, of course, also on this panel, we had an EU commissioner saying, we will have in the United States will absolutely soon have censorship where we will eliminate certain levels of speech. Like that's going to be the move. I think I have the direct quote here. You sent it to me earlier, but on that very same panel, did you guys have that? Yeah, we were all talking about it in the. There it is. Oh, yeah. We'll soon make hate speech illegal, says the EU commissioner. So that was, of course, she was on that very same panel. So the United States will soon follow Europe in implementing laws against so-called hate speech.
That was already introduced along racial lines. That was in the newsletter this morning that a representative from Texas now wants it to become illegal, a crime, to say anything at all derogatory towards a person of color, which is very unclear whether or not a person of color can say something bad against another person of color, or is it just anybody who says anything bad against any person of color?
They can't define it. They can't define it. And this is, of course, such a disaster, right?
Online or offline, anything at all.
So other panels took place, including climate panels. Climate czar John Kerry was there to tell us that the only way to combat climate change is by spending trillions of dollars that we don't have for a phony plan to push us into solar panels. And he flew there on his private jet, by the way. Watch.
Money, 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 money. The State of the Union's coming up, and the president's got to, and I think will because he believes this. We got to move this. Because that's the only way we keep 1.5 degrees alive. So how do we get there? Well, the lesson I've learned in the last years, and I learned it as secretary, and I've learned it since, reinforced in spades, is money, 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 money. And I'm sorry to say that. I mean, yes, technology, yes, exciting new initiatives, yes, organizing, winning races politically. I mean, what happened in the midterms in the United States is nothing less than miraculous, and it happened because young people voted. And the second most voted issue was climate. It's a huge deal, but we have to go further. I have said this before, but I say it again. I'm convinced we will get to a low carbon, no carbon economy. We're going to get there because we.
But we need to do it with trillions of dollars.
Okay.
Trillions of dollars. So money we don't have.
They also mean trillions of money that they're going to be trading back and forth amongst themselves. They don't want to actually give any. They wouldn't go like. He's not calling for percolate up economics. He's not saying let's give a bunch of money to the poor, let them elevate themselves, and then everything will just slowly start to work its way up from the bottom. He means let's just give each other a bunch more money, and then we'll fix it somehow. I mean,
which they don't.
That's what I heard anyway.
Right. Yeah. When we're going to talk later about New Zealand's climate change efforts and how, despite all kinds of money, that amounted to zero.
Yeah.
Okay. Fun. It's a fun new project.
So not to be outdone is John Kerry's daughter, who says climate change is going to kill 250,000 people. Watch.
Time to do that. We have to start that now, because to build that workforce that is going to manage the extra 250,000 deaths that we're going to see from climate change, the growing non-communicable disease, the existing disease that is already there, we already know that that's a win-win.
It's a win-win. It's a win-win.
Well, I mean, again, Bjorn Lomborg points out that, like, in places that will get hotter, these death predictions are assuming that humans do nothing to adapt, such as buy an air conditioner,
right,
which we can do if we don't destroy economies in the meantime. And the key to surviving climate change is adaptation. So not scaring people about what's happening, but thinking about how we then adapt as human beings. We're an adaptive species.
There is no climate catastrophe. That has been disproven. There
absolutely is climate change that we as humans will need to adapt to. So, either you stand there like quicksand, or you do something like buy an air conditioning.
Right.
Like, these are your choices, They're not going to make it easy on us, though, if they destroy economies with sanctions and
they get rid of
man-made
fossil
wars.
fuels.
And okay.
Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.